Doc Holliday. He wasn't the lead of the story, yet he completely stole the spotlight with nothing more than a pistol, a southern drawl, and the shadow of death hanging over him. Val Kilmer's portrayal of Doc Holliday in Tombstone is the kind of once-in-a-lifetime performance that should have been etched into Oscar history, but the Academy didn't even give him a nomination. Kilmer brought Doc to life as a charming southern gentleman, slowly being consumed by tuberculosis, but still sharper, quicker, and deadlier than anyone around him. Every line drips with sarcasm, delivered with the weary elegance of a man who knows he's already halfway to the grave. Off camera, Kilmer stayed immersed in the role, keeping himself thin, slouched, and speaking with a deliberate slur. He even had a clever trick to sound more fragile. Between takes, he kept an ice chip in his mouth, giving his voice that raspy, breathless tone. That voice became essential to the character's dying defiance. And what makes the performance unforgettable is how he turns flair into a weapon. When he says, "I'm your huckleberry," it's not just a threat, it's poetry. His southern accent is more than regional, it's Shakespeare dipped in whiskey. Underneath the polished veneer is a man spilling over with pain and regret, yet bound by loyalty to Wyatt Earp, determined to meet death with some dignity. In a movie overflowing with gunfights, grit, and mustaches, Doc Holliday still rises above everyone else. One of the film's defining moments comes when he steps in for Wyatt Earp in the duel against Johnny Ringo. Pale, sweating, and on the edge of collapse, he turns what should have been a routine shootout into something almost mythical. He toys with Ringo, spins his pistol like a magician, then kills him with chilling calmness. It's one of the coldest, most merciful executions ever filmed in a Western. Though the duel lasts only moments, Kilmer stretches it into an eternity with his eerie serenity, something only a man courting death could summon, and yet, the Academy overlooked all of it. Why? Tombstone wasn't taken seriously, it was just a rowdy Western at a time when Oscar voters only respected somber prestige films. On top of that, the film's troubled production fractured its PR campaign, destroying its Oscar chances. Meanwhile, Tommy Lee Jones won Best Supporting Actor for The Fugitive, a role filled with grit and authority, yes, but without the layered nuance or daring theatricality that Kilmer delivered. To make matters worse, Kilmer later revealed that Tombstone was one of the toughest shoots of his career, mirroring Doc's own struggles with illness, yet he poured every ounce of himself into the role. And it shows. To this day, Tombstone endures because of Doc Holliday. People don't quote Wyatt Earp, they quote Doc. They copy the slouch, the smirk, the sly grin. And they all ask the same question: how did the Academy miss one of the greatest scene-stealing performances in film history? Bill the Butcher. With a top hat, a handlebar mustache, and a glass eye painted with an American eagle, he still managed to be the most terrifying man in New York. As Bill the Butcher, cutting in gangs of New York, Daniel Day-Lewis delivered a performance so volcanic, so commanding, it nearly swallowed the entire film. And yet, despite the intensity, he didn't win the Oscar. Bill the Butcher is more than just a gang leader. He sees himself as a defender of true America, violent, yes, but also bound by his own twisted sense of honor. Day-Lewis gave him Shakespearean weight, eloquent, poetic, and horrifying in equal measure. One moment, he's delivering a powerful monologue about loyalty. The next, he's burying a cleaver into a man's spine mid-sentence. He dominates the screen like a tyrant performing on stage. Behind the scenes, Day-Lewis went all in, as usual. He spoke in Bill's 19th century New York accent both on and off set, mastering it by studying old recordings and transcripts. He even apprenticed with a butcher for months, carving meat with precision. His glass eye? He wanted a real one implanted but settled for a prosthetic and learned to tap it with a knife just to unnerve those around him. One unforgettable scene shows Bill draped in a blood-soaked American flag, delivering a eulogy for a man he personally murdered. "He was the only man I ever killed worth remembering," he says with chilling reverence. Day-Lewis transforms murder into mythology, making Bill both terrifying villain and enduring legend. So why didn't he win? The Oscar went instead to Adrien Brody for The Pianist, a delicate, deeply human performance that embodied suffering and survival during the Holocaust. While Day-Lewis roared with fire and violence, Brody's subtle restraint and historical subject matter carried more weight with voters. His win also marked him as the youngest Best Actor in history, a milestone too irresistible for the Academy. Still Lewis's dedication bordered on dangerous. He refused to wear modern coats during filming, even in freezing weather, because it would break character. He caught pneumonia but delayed treatment until the film wrapped. He later admitted he had to exorcise Bill from his system because the role had consumed him. Gangs of New York was intended as a sweeping portrait of America's bloody beginnings, but it's Day-Lewis who gave it its soul-shaking war cry. He didn't just act, he detonated. The Academy may have favored quiet tragedy over theatrical terror, but history remembers the Butcher. Karl Childers. He speaks with a slow, gravelly murmur. He walks hunched, eyes weighed down by some unspeakable burden. As Karl Childers in Sling Blade, Billy Bob Thornton created a character so unforgettable, so haunting, that it instantly earned a place in film history. And yet, when the Best Actor Oscar was handed out, it went to someone else. Thornton didn't just play Karl, he wrote him, directed him, and transformed into him. Karl is a mentally disabled man recently released from a psychiatric hospital after serving time for murdering his mother and her lover. The story follows his uneasy return to society, his unlikely friendship with a young boy, and his quiet, inevitable slide toward another act of violence. Thornton built Karl with discipline and precision. The stiff posture, the hollowed stare, the peculiar responses, everything feels authentic, not for show, but because Karl himself observes the world with cautious calculation. He is gentle one moment and chilling the next. The roots of this character go deep. Thornton first created Karl in a one-man stage play, later adapted it into a short, and finally into the feature film. By the time Sling Blade was shot, he had performed Karl hundreds of times. On set, he altered his own face without heavy makeup, drooping his eyelids, jutting his jaw, and forcing a limp. He often stayed in character even when the cameras weren't rolling. One of the film's most unsettling scenes comes when Karl tells his young friend's abusive stepfather with eerie calm, "I reckon I'm gonna have to kill you." No shouting, no anger, just quiet certainty. Moments later, with a lawnmower blade, he follows through. It's not just violence, it's Karl's distorted version of protection. Thornton makes the audience feel the crushing weight of that choice without ever excusing it. Though nominated for Best Actor, Thornton lost to Jeffrey Rush for Shine, a performance filled with musical triumph and emotional turbulence. The Academy has always leaned toward uplifting inspirational arcs, and Karl Childers was anything but. Instead, Thornton received the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay, an extraordinary achievement for a first-time filmmaker. But here's what most people overlook. Sling Blade was made on a shoestring budget in Arkansas. Thornton even mortgaged his own house to get it finished. Against all odds, he carved out a film and a character that still reverberates through cinema. That walk, that voice, that blade. Karl Childers remains one of the most chilling, unforgettable creations ever put to screen. Aaron Stampler. He enters trembling, stammering, drenched in blood, and leaves as one of the greatest manipulators ever captured on film. In Primal Fear, Edward Norton's performance as Aaron Stampler wasn't just impressive, it was seismic. And yet, on Oscar night, he walked away empty-handed. Aaron begins as a meek altar boy accused of brutally murdering an archbishop. His voice shakes, his eyes dart with fear, his hands won't stop trembling. The audience believes him, his lawyer believes him. Everyone believes him until the film's final minutes, when the mask drops. Aaron vanishes, and Roy emerges, cold, cunning, calculating. The stutter, the fear, the innocence, all of it revealed as a masterful act. Norton shifts so seamlessly between the two personas that the twist hits like an earthquake, redefining everything we thought we saw. What makes it more remarkable is that Norton wasn't a star at the time, he wasn't even known. He beat out more than 2,000 other actors in open auditions. For his very first film role, he delivered a performance that felt like the work of a seasoned veteran. He built distinct voices, postures, and facial tics for Aaron and Roy, rehearsing until he could slip between them in an instant. To preserve the illusion, the production kept much of Roy's material a secret even from the cast. The reveal stunned not just the characters on screen but some crew members as well. And when Richard Gere's lawyer character visits him at the end, Norton's transformation is chilling. He drops the stammer, lowers his voice, lets the smile creep across his face, and delivers the truth. There never was an Aaron. It's a moment so shocking that audiences walked out of theaters desperate to rewatch, hunting for the breadcrumbs Norton had left behind. That isn't just acting, it's sleight of hand. So why no Oscar? Norton lost to Cuba Gooding Jr. for Jerry Maguire. Gooding's turn was funny, charismatic, endlessly quotable, show me the money, and became a cultural phenomenon. But it didn't demand the technical mastery or tonal range Norton displayed. The Academy chose the crowd pleaser, leaving Norton's extraordinary dual performance in the shadows. Few know just how far Norton went to perfect Aaron's facade. He worked with speech pathologists and psychologists to mimic real neurological conditions. In test screenings, audiences didn't even realize Aaron and Roy were the same person until Norton's name appeared in the credits. Primal Fear made Edward Norton an instant star. It also set a bar so high that some still call it his greatest work. The Academy may have missed it, but film history hasn't. Malcolm X. Few performances have ever felt as transformative, as commanding, or as spiritually alive as Denzel Washington's portrayal of Malcolm X. For more than 3 hours, he didn't just act, he resurrected the man. And still, when the Oscars came around, the award went to someone else. Washington charted Malcolm's full journey from Detroit Red, the slick hustler on the streets, to the fiery spokesman of the Nation of Islam, and finally to a man softened and strengthened by pilgrimage, standing with calm authority for justice. The voice changes, the walk changes, even the eyes change. It's not just an actor shifting gears, it's a life evolving in real time. His authenticity was so precise that civil rights leaders who had personally known Malcolm admitted they forgot they were watching a performance. Washington studied everything: archival footage, FBI surveillance tapes, speeches, and personal writings, absorbing Malcolm's rhythms, his cadence, his essence. Spike Lee insisted Washington was the only choice for the role, and the results proved him right. One of the film's most iconic moments comes when Malcolm leads a disciplined line of men to a hospital where a black man beaten by police is denied treatment. He raises a single finger, the crowd disperses instantly, and a stunned officer mutters, "That's too much power for one man to have." You feel it, it isn't bravado, it's authority born of spirit. But the Academy had other plans. Washington was nominated, but the Best Actor award went to Al Pacino for Scent of a Woman. Pacino had been nominated 7 times without winning, and voters were determined to finally honor him. His loud, flamboyant performance, punctuated by the famous "hoo-ah," was entertaining, but it didn't carry the historical weight or layered depth of Washington's portrayal. Pacino's win was framed as overdue. Washington's masterpiece became collateral damage. What's often forgotten is how much sacrifice went into making Malcolm X. When the film ran out of money, both Washington and Spike Lee took pay cuts, even working for weeks without pay just to finish. Washington refused to wear any costume unless it was historically accurate, down to the stitching of Malcolm's suits. The authenticity resonated. Malcolm's own children praised Washington's work. Nelson Mandela himself appeared at the end of the film, reciting Malcolm's words in tribute. Some viewers even believed they were seeing archival footage when in fact, it was all Washington. The Oscars may have overlooked it, but history hasn't. Malcolm X is shown in classrooms, cited by activists, and revered as the benchmark for biographical performances. Washington didn't just portray a man, he gave us a revelation. Ron Kovic. No charming smile, no action hero swagger, no running. In Born on the 4th of July, Tom Cruise stripped away everything audiences expected of him and delivered one of the rawest, most uncompromising performances of his career. And when Oscar night came, the Academy passed him over. Cruise plays Ron Kovic, a patriotic young man who enlists with pride and enthusiasm. At first, he's pure Americana, marching in parades, draped in red, white, and blue, brimming with youthful confidence, but Vietnam shatters him. On the battlefield, his face twists from determination to panic as bullets fly. He's shot in the spine, left paralyzed, and condemned to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. From there, the film refuses to look away. Cruise exposes every brutal step of Kovic's journey: the decaying veterans' hospitals, the impotent rage, the drunken breakdowns, the suicidal despair. In one searing scene, he confesses through tears that he accidentally killed a fellow soldier. In another, he explodes during dinner with his conservative family, raging from his wheelchair until plates smash on the floor. It isn't pretty, it's devastating. What many don't know is how deeply Cruise prepared. He spent months training in a wheelchair to master the posture and physical strain. He lived with Ron Kovic himself, studying his diaries and daily routines, absorbing the pain and resilience of the real man. On set, Cruise insisted on using authentic VA hospital equipment even when it slowed production because he wanted the experience to feel brutally accurate. The performance earned him a Best Actor nomination. But he lost to Daniel Day-Lewis for My Left Foot, a role that demanded an equally staggering commitment. Day-Lewis remained in character as a man with cerebral palsy throughout filming, even being carried around set in a wheelchair. The Academy couldn't resist that level of method acting, and so, despite his brilliance, Cruise was overshadowed. Director Oliver Stone later admitted he'd never seen an actor give so much emotionally. Behind the scenes, Cruise broke down repeatedly, not from frustration, but from immersing himself so deeply in Kovic's trauma. It wasn't just acting, it was confrontation, reckoning. Cruise didn't win the Oscar, but from that moment on, he was no longer just the star of Top Gun. He had proven himself as a serious actor, willing to destroy his own image to reveal something raw and true. The Academy may have looked away, but audiences never forgot. Jack Torrance. He didn't just go insane, he dragged the audience into madness with him. Jack Nicholson's performance as Jack Torrance in The Shining isn't just iconic, it's etched into the DNA of pop culture. And yet, the Academy didn't even nominate him. Nicholson begins the film as a struggling writer with a simmering temper, but as the haunted Overlook Hotel begins to sink its claws into him, his unraveling is terrifyingly believable. His voice deepens into a menacing growl, his stride becomes a lurch, his grin turns into a weapon. Every twitch of his face signals a man crumbling, and somehow, you can't look away. One of the most chilling details, that legendary line, "Here's Johnny," wasn't scripted at all. Nicholson improvised it, channeling late-night television into sheer nightmare fuel. Stanley Kubrick, famously obsessive, forced the axe scene to be shot more than 60 times. Nicholson, once a volunteer firefighter, didn't just act, he hacked through real doors with real axes until the crew was genuinely terrified of him. The entire performance is filled with these unhinged choices, the eerie baby voice he uses to taunt his son, the unsettling way he types "all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy" over and over. Nicholson doesn't simply perform insanity, he makes it magnetic. When Jack enters a room, you feel dread before he even speaks. But back in 1980, The Shining was dismissed. Critics called it cold, confusing, even boring. Horror was seen as beneath the Oscars unless it wore the mask of serious drama. That year, the Academy favored Robert De Niro in Raging Bull, a gritty, transformative role that fit the mold of what Oscar voters considered worthy cinema. Nicholson's masterclass in terror was ignored. What people rarely know is how much Nicholson immersed himself in the role. He isolated himself from cast and crew, slept erratically, ate poorly, and arrived on set in volatile moods. Kubrick encouraged it, letting the actor's fraying mental state bleed into Jack Torrance's breakdown. Today, The Shining is hailed as one of the greatest horror films ever made, and Nicholson's performance is its pulsing, psychotic heart. Ask anyone to name a movie villain, and Jack Torrance ranks alongside Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. The only difference? Nicholson needed no mask. Just his face, his voice, and that gleaming, haunted stare. The Academy may have overlooked him, but the world never has. Lou Bloom. It's a performance so precise it borders on inhuman. Jake Gyllenhaal's turn as Lou Bloom in Nightcrawler is a masterclass in controlled mania. Every glance, every word sharpened into something unsettling. Critics raved. Audiences were floored, and yet, the Academy gave him nothing. Lou Bloom is a gaunt, bug-eyed scavenger stalking Los Angeles at night, chasing crime scenes to film and sell to local news outlets. To embody him, Gyllenhaal dropped nearly 30 pounds, sculpting his face into the sharp, hungry features of a coyote prowling the city. That choice was his idea, not a studio request. He even insisted on driving himself alone to set at night, without security, to feel Lou's isolation seep into his bones. Every aspect of Lou is engineered to disturb. His posture is coiled, his smile just a fraction too wide, his voice clipped with the rhythm of self-help tapes and business seminars. He speaks in motivational slogans and corporate jargon, pitching his schemes like a twisted entrepreneur. He isn't just a man, he's a predator dressed in the language of LinkedIn. One of the film's most chilling moments comes when Lou tells his assistant he can't risk the company's success, moments before deliberately letting him die to capture better footage. He says it as casually as if he were talking about quarterly profits. That calm detachment is scarier than any outburst could be. Another unforgettable scene has Lou negotiating with a news director played by Rene Russo over footage so grotesque it borders on illegal. She recoils, he leans in. He doesn't ask whether it's right. He asks if it will boost ratings. It's not menace, it's enthusiasm. He isn't a monster from outside the system, he's what the system creates and rewards. And in the end, Lou wins. He gets the contracts, he gets the power, he builds an empire. That, perhaps, is why Oscar voters looked away. Lou doesn't repent, doesn't grow, doesn't collapse into punishment or redemption. He thrives. The Academy has always struggled with characters who lack a moral center. Instead, the award went to Eddie Redmayne for The Theory of Everything, a polished, uplifting biopic about Stephen Hawking, safe, respectable, inspiring. Gyllenhaal's razor-edged critique of ambition gone feral was left in the cold. Behind the scenes, the achievement is even greater than most realize. The film was shot in just 27 days. To deliver that kind of transformative performance on such a brutal schedule is almost unheard of. So no, Jake Gyllenhaal didn't get the Oscar. But with Nightcrawler, he gave us something rarer. A performance so unnerving, so unblinking, it feels less like acting and more like witnessing a predator at work. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that subscribe button. There's a lot more powerful stories, untold scandals, and hidden Hollywood truths coming your way. Don't miss what's next, because sometimes the most shocking stories are the ones the industry tries hardest to bury. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.